Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching or listening. We got a brand new show for you today, and let me tell you, we have a good one joining us in just a second, and this is going to sound really good to our guests. It sounds good to me when I say it, but joining us in just a second is the newest 2024 Bassmaster Elite Champion, Cliff Prince. Joining us in a second. Man, that sounds good. That never gets old. So hard to win an event, and I'm so excited to get Cliff on to talk a little bit about that and some other things. Let me remind you that this podcast is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Head on over to abugarcia.com and check out their products. By the way, the brand new Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels dropping at ICAST in just a few weeks. So very, very excited about that. We got a great rod and reel coming for you. Should be available this fall. Also, podcast brought to you by the Ike Foundation. If you want to help get kids fishing, if you want to help get new kids fishing, head on over to the ikefoundation.org and get more information on that. Also, check out the dates over there. We've got some pro-am events and kids tournaments and kids fishing events, and of course, our scholarship dinner coming up this fall. I don't want to wait any longer. Enough with the me talking. I want to get him on, and very, very excited. I think for the first time having him on the podcast. So very, very excited to have on the winner of Wheeler Lake just a week ago. Not even a week ago, a few days ago, feels like. We've got Cliff Prince. What's up,
Hey,
Cliff?
man. Hey, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, listen, we talked just for a quick second before we got you on, and you said you felt like you were still levitating or floating off of the ground. I could see it in your smile.
Yeah.
Dude, it's got to be a little surreal right now.
Hey, man. You know, I wish I'd have won one earlier in my career, but that made it that much sweeter to win one now, you know, because I was getting to the point in my career, I'm like, am I ever going to be in the position to win one of these again? You know,
Yes.
and to finally close the door on one, I mean, to see the response of all the fans and friends and family, it's just been awesome.
It was awesome to watch. It was awesome to experience. I want to relay this story to people watching and listening, and it's just a moment that we had together.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of fisherman's intuition, you know, but I've had a little bit of that in my career. And the second day of the tournament, I think you were 2 in front of me in bag line.
Yep.
And we were just talking, and I said, yeah, you got him again. And you said you did. And I could just see in your body language, in your facial, in your voice, dude, you were oozing confidence. And I don't want to say I'm a psychic, but I knew at that moment that you were going to be right there for the win. Did you know at that moment that you were going to win, or what was going through your head on the second day?
Man, really after the first morning, when I caught what I figured what was my goal,
Right.
and I seen them come up schooling beside the boat, I'm like, if nobody tries to come in, this was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, if
Right.
nobody tries to come here, dude, this is the winning spot.
Right.
And I told my marshal that morning, I said, hey, it's going to get really, really boring, because I said, we're not going to make another cast on that spot. And I said, we're going to be a bulldozer around here for a football field. So anytime anybody tried to come in there, nobody did, you know, all week. It was a dream come true. You don't have that on our tour. You know that.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I've had guys when I've been leading events tell me, hey, I know those fish are there and I'm coming tomorrow. And, you know, and in those type of situations, all you can do is put a mark in your book and say, okay, come on. You know, because what are you going to do? Get in an argument and just ruin your day and his?
Right.
So to have a place like that, and to the fish to be there to win, and nobody try to come, man, that just doesn't happen. And you know that as well as I do.
Does not. That does not. Very unique. Very
Yeah.
unique. And
Yeah.
especially in today's age, right? Where you
Yes.
have all
Yes.
these modern technologies and live
Yep.
coverage and
Uh-huh.
very unique to have that. But
Yeah.
I do want to preface this by letting everybody know, people watching, listening, not everyone watching this podcast is a hardcore elite fan. If they're a hardcore elite fan, they know who you are. But I do want to say this, Cliff, 14 years fishing the elite tour, lots and lots of top tens, second places, third places. So close.
Yeah.
You sprinkle in the fact that, and I can relate to this, the fact that there's an expectation when you go to a place that's considered your home water, right?
Yeah.
Visited
Yeah.
the St. John's a lot, right?
Yep.
So many expectations put on you over the years, and there was never a close. And that puts into perspective, dude, it's so freaking hard to actually win one of these.
Yes.
This has been such a long time in the making. It's just amazing to me because I'm glad when this happens to a good guy. And you're a good guy. But talk about that. You mentioned, and I've read it. I've read an article somewhere that, you were questioning, why am I here? And I'm doing that now, to be honest with you. I have that going through my mind. Why am I here? Is it time to retire? You had thoughts of that.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
So this means, I mean, this isn't a regular win. To me, this is like a win on steroids.
Yeah.
Besides the trophy, like, how important is this to you?
Man, I mean, honestly, I told my wife when I come home from Murray, I'm like, what am I doing here?
Right.
I'm like, it started at the middle of the season last year. And I mean, I think I cashed a check in the first 4 tournaments, and I'm like, dude, I got a good year going. And then it was just all downhill. And it's not that I didn't catch fish; they were just catching them better than I was.
Right.
And just enough where I was just out of check range. And then I start the season this year. We're coming to Palaca, and I have absolutely no momentum. And everything I did at Palaca went wrong. I mean, I lose 3 7-pounders the second day, and I literally wanted to kick everything off my boat and park it on the bank and walk home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm on my home
yeah.
lake, and you know how many times we've been to Palaca,
Yeah.
and I have been right there to win it. I've beat myself. I've lost fish to make the. I mean, what the one year? I mean, I lose 2 giants, one the first day and one the second day, and I go from being in the top 10 if I catch those to not even making the 50 cut.
Right.
And I mean, it's so easy to get your head caved in on your home lake, and everybody's like, man, this is yours. You should win this. I don't fish here that much anymore. As well as I do, we're on the road so much. You don't get to to play fish a whole lot like you used to.
You don't. Your home water's not even your home water anymore because you don't spend enough time there.
The fishing has changed so much because there's no grass here anymore.
Right.
And these fish are relating to totally different cover. All the places, all the banks I used to catch them on, all the little hidey holes that I had when the grass was here, it's all changed. It's all washed away. It's got tore up by hurricanes and everything changes in a grass lake anyway every year. And not saying that I still can't catch them here. I still feel confident that I can go, compete locally with these guys, but I'm not a local anymore.
You're not. No, I'm shit.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks same scenario for me on the Delaware River, on the Upper Chesapeake Bay,
Yes.
and
yes.
tidal water. When I get up here, and I have my claim to fame is the one on the Chesapeake that Aaron Martin's won. I was expected to do well. I had a camera on me the first day. I zeroed the first day. That's a bad, and that was technically supposed to be my home water. So I know that feeling. It's real easy to miss. Almost easier to miss on your home water.
Yes.
Did that play in this win? Did the fact that this was the Tennessee River, a place that traditionally you've done just okay, Did that play in maybe settling you down a little bit? Do you think that there was a factor there?
Man, not really. You know, my whole thing was I found this spot the first day of practice right in the middle of the day. I seen a couple of shad run across the top of the water, made a couple of casts, got a couple of bites. There were some other guys on the flat, so I shook them off and just left. Um, my wife rides with me the last day of practice, and about 1, 2 o'clock, I'm like, I'm done. You know, I've got a couple places I can go, feel like I can survive.
Yeah.
And I tell her, you know, hey, if I don't make the cut, we'll drive by the hunting camp, fill up some feeders and move some cameras around. You know, I'm already making in my mind that I might not even make Saturday.
Yeah.
So, and she brought that up to me a little while ago. And anyway, we pull up to that spot when she's with me, and there's a local there, and literally he's catching them every cast. And one of them, she goes, he's weighing it, you know. And I'm like, well, he's right on that waypoint where I had those 2 bites. So I said, there's something to that place, and I wanted to go idle it just to see if I could see anything.
Right.
And you know, that was different about the area. Well, I just made a mental note. I said, I probably ought to start there in the morning. I got a place I can probably go catch 12 or 13 pounds, but I probably ought to go give this place a shot.
Right.
And literally, and I mean, I get to my waypoint and I fire up there, and I mean, it's every cast. And I mean, that's, you know, and then after I catch what I feel like I need to, there's a school comes up, there's like 15 or 20 4 and 5 pounders. And I'm like, this is special,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, as you're talking, I'm like getting chills because I think if you're watching or listening to this podcast right now, it's every tournament angler's dream to find that mega school, you know,
Oh,
like I literally have woken up in a cold sweat at night sometimes, like, and I'm like, oh shit, it was just a dream. And I'm like mad because I had found the mega school, you know?
Yeah.
You freaking did it. You found the mega
know.
school. What's crazy about the story as you're telling it, because I didn't know this story. I'm hearing it for the first time. You sort of didn't know it was the mega school. Like you sort of knew something was going down there, but you didn't like know. Like you didn't have it mapped out. Like you didn't have the blueprint of exactly what was going down. So you kind of figured it as the tournament progressed almost.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, when I seen that guy, I'm like, I'm not going to go over there and talk to him, because you don't ever know how a local's going to respond, because that might be his private little honey hole. You know, you just don't know. It could go either way. He could be like, man, if you're fishing a tournament, I'm out of here. I kind of figured he knew, or either he wasn't, you know, a tournament angler at all and didn't want us there to begin with. So you just don't never know. So Bernie goes, you didn't go over there and talk to him? I'm like, no, I didn't. Because I didn't, you just don't ever know. So, like I say, man, it was all about the spot, and all I can say is the good Lord was shining down on me last week and showed me exactly the cast to make, and it all worked out.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that, Cliff. I've been saying it for years. Like whether you take the religious approach or the philosophical approach, it's almost like when it's meant to be. Like when it happens and things fall into place like that, it's almost like you just you step back and you're like, cool, look at this happening all by itself. You know, you're watching it happen. You know, that's crazy. It's just amazing. Time and time again, a lot of my wins too have come in a very, very similar fashion. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, I fished the Opens for, I think, 3 years before I qualified, and I've had several of those opportunities just like this. I've just, you know, didn't have a good first day and figured it out in the tournament.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a double handful of tournaments that if I would have known what I was on, you know, the first day, it would have been lights out. I'd have blowed the tournament away.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just I mean, it's tournament fishing, man, and
Yeah.
it was finally my turn. That's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Well, man, I told you this in line that second day. We're in bag line,
Uh-huh.
and I said, "Man, I'd like to see you win." And and I said to you, it's not. I said, I said I like. It's not because I like all the elite guys, but
Right.
except one or two. I told you that there's probably a couple I don't.
That was the exact
Exact
conversation.
words. I said
Yeah.
99% of them I like. But
Yeah.
you are one of the good guys. And honestly, like, you can feel it in the community. And like, I don't want to say this to disparage other winners, but like, when a good guy wins, the whole community like lights up and is uplifted and feels good. And
Yeah.
occasionally not a good guy wins. And it's not that you're mad at that, because that's the way it works, but it's not the same thing. But
Yeah.
I did want to step back too. Is that I love that you're a regular guy. And again, for a lot of our listeners that don't know you, some of our competitors sort of were born into this tournament bass fishing world. They
Mhm.
have a silver spoon. They're, they're sort of, pushed into this and have a lot of, abnormal resources.
Right.
Dude, you're
right.
a regular dude. Like,
Right.
in fact, you own a business. In fact,
I
when you're
do.
not fishing, you come home and run a business. Is that correct?
Yeah. My wife was cracking the whip when we got home Monday. So yeah, man, I busted my butt for one day, and thank goodness I got two good guys that work for me while I'm gone,
Yeah.
and she kind of keeps the business part of it while I'm gone, and luckily it's a business that can sustain itself, when I'm gone with the two guys that I got working for me. I couldn't do it without them, and
Yeah.
and I couldn't do what I'm doing without the business that I have. I've got some great sponsors, but they don't pay for everything,
Right.
and when I'm not winning like it has been here lately, there I got a business to fall back on, and thank goodness there it has been, because it has been pretty cold season up
Yeah.
until this win.
Yeah, I can relate to that. But I do love. It's very inspirational that like I call guys like you like regular dudes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
regular guys, like working class guys. Regular guys can do it and can
yeah,
fish the elites and win the elites. I love
right.
that because it's a lot of inspiration. We do have a lot of listeners out here, and
Yep.
a lot of them are regular dudes.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for them if there's a college kid listening, or a guy that's starting his own business and still aspires to do it? Do you have advice for him?
Man, my biggest thing is, if you want to do this as a career, make sure you have some kind of income when you're not on the water. I tell every college kid, high school kid, if you want to do this, make sure you have something to fall back on, or some kind of income other than just fishing.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of guys that make it work. I'm not the guy that, like you. You're gifted with what you do, and with the social media and the crowd. I mean, people just gather to you, and I'm a quiet guy. I want to be there. I want to win every event, but sometimes if you don't speak to me, I don't even you won't even know I'm there. So I keep a low profile is what I tell everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think
Yeah.
everybody has their own personality. I
Yeah. Right.
I want to know. So obviously, this is a game changer for you. This is a big moment.
Yeah.
Not very many people alive walking the face of the earth. Literally, this is a good way to say it. Not very many people walking the face of the earth have a blue trophy. You
Right.
have one now. It's
Yeah.
just amazing. Does this win change anything for you moving forward? And that could be anything. Does it change your outlook on the length of your career? Does it change the outlook on your other business? Does it change anything, or is it just status quo?
Man, it is just one day at a time. Um, I mean, I don't even know that I'm going to requalify. I mean, I looked at the points the other day, and I'm like, winning that tournament did not move the needle, you know. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to Smith and try to win Smith. That's all that's all I can say. And um, I'm not going to stop fishing. You know, even if
Right.
I'm not fishing on the elites, I'm going to fish somewhere. Um, but like I say, it's just one day at a time, man. I'm just glad to finally get one under my belt, and I can't believe the 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 high that it's given me. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
couldn't imagine winning the Bassmasters Classic. I can remember watching you catch that one, and you never give up. I mean, I can relate.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
It's so hard to win. And, I think in this sport, when it materializes, when it finally happens, and a lot of
Yeah.
times the longer the dry spell, or the more adversity you have, the better those moments
The
feel,
sweeter it is. Yeah,
the sweeter
exactly.
it is, and
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
one of those moments right now in my career where
Uh-huh.
I'm not fishing great. I'm in a low
Uh-huh.
point. I'm getting older, and I'm striving to get there again. And I would
Mm-hmm.
love to, like watching you win. Got to watch live a few of the last days. It's inspirational for me, and I do it for
Yeah.
a living,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's nice to watch it, nice to see it. Now,
Hey, man, every time I watch somebody win, I do this. Especially if it's somebody that I know and have some contact with. I mean, it's an emotional moment for me. I don't care, how they win or whatever. It's just
yeah,
like, wow, I want one of those.
yeah,
You
I
know?
know. Yeah, they do look good on the
Yeah.
I've got a few of mine, and so we have a home office just here at the house, and it's
Mhm.
like every time you walk in, you see that, and it's
Mhm.
like no one can never take that away from you now,
Yeah,
right? So it's
that's
like
right.
no matter what happens, if in 10 years you're doing something else, or you're retired, or you're going to
Yeah.
walk in and look at that thing and, yep, that happened.
That happened,
That
and you'll never
really
forget it.
happened.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'll know the exact moment.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pivotal points in that tournament where I'm like, here we go. You
Yeah.
know,
It, it was
you'll never forget it.
it was so fun watching you. And one of the things, yeah, I'm a fish head, so I
Mhm.
just love it. I'm a fan, and I am a fish head. And I remember watching a lot of the clips where you would throw out there, and I could tell they're hitting at it. You're
Mhm.
either they're hitting it or you're hitting them. There's so many
Right.
there. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Correct.
oh my God. Because you're steady winding that chatterbait. And I know that was
Right.
key to the pattern. And
Yep.
and it's and no, no, there's another no, no. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, how many fish are down there?
Oh,
Damn it.
dude, it was
There's a million
crazy.
fish down.
Man, I was like, if the whole thing, the key thing to getting those fish to bite, you couldn't have no erratic action. But
Right.
a lot of the smaller fish would eat it on the fall, and then whenever you would start winding it, you didn't want it no erratic action. If you hopped it, the only one I really caught when I hopped it out of the grass was a smallmouth, a big one. But the rest of them, they didn't want any erratic action. They just wanted it slow, just a steady thump with that blade.
Slow and steady.
And I mean, you wanted bottom contact, and I think that's a lot of reasons I've lost some of those fish. They were pinning it on the bottom type thing because a lot of them
Right.
were hooked in the bottom lip
Right.
and different things. And I noticed that, and I knew I was going to lose some because you lose some on a chatterbait.
Yeah.
It's just part of it, and especially when they've seen it a bunch and they're getting conditioned to it. They're not eating it as good. But whenever you did get one to eat it, I mean, he had it in his crushers.
Swallowed
Um,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
That,
mean, like when I caught that 7 pounder the third day, I mean, I literally had 4 bites on that one cast before one actually eat it and load it up.
oh, that's so awesome. That's so
Oh,
awesome.
man, it was fun. I'm
I love
telling
it.
you.
Uh,
I want to go back.
I know. I want to go. It sounds so fun. We've seen a lot of wins in the last few years on
Uh-huh.
the jackhammer, on a vibrating jig,
Yep.
jackhammer style bait. I
Right.
thought it was interesting, Cliff, your trailer choice. You see so many guys in today's world
Mhm.
using that Zaco style
Correct.
trailer. And
Mhm.
you used sort of a boot tail style swim bait trailer.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit. I thought that was interesting.
You know, I've been sponsored by Bassmaster for a long time, and here on the river, that's the same trailer I use here, and I've caught a lot of big fish on that same trailer, same setup, maybe a different color, but for whatever reason, that's just my confidence go-to type thing. Now I did change it a little bit, and I caught some fish on some different trailers, but 90% of them come on that little boss swim bait that Bass Assassin makes, and it's more probably the confidence, you know.
Right.
It was mainly the chatterbait type thing, but I've caught a lot of fish in a lot of places, Wisconsin on the Mississippi River. I've caught them on that same swim bait. Smallmouth. I've got a lot of smallmouth on it. Um, but yeah, that's a little different, and I don't want to throw the same thing everybody's throwing. I
Right.
want something a little bit different, you
Yeah.
know.
Almost
Uh,
everybody throwing a chatterbait with that Zaco style on the back. And you know, I tell you this, I don't know if this was important, but I've
mhm.
noticed when you put that non-boot tail on the back, when it's just more of a straight, you know, like a fluke style trailer on it,
Right.
it that chatterbait tends to be more erratic and
Uh-huh.
it tends to be looser. And when you
Uh-huh.
put a boot tail on, it tends to track more
A
true and
little
straight. And it sounds
right.
like that just jived with the way they wanted it in this tournament.
It did, and one of the things that I mean, you know this probably as well as I do, on those jackhammers, sometimes the skirt's a little thicker on some than on others, and I'll pull some strands out of it to make it a little more erratic, you know.
Yeah.
But those fish didn't want a whole lot of action. They needed a thump, I think, to I don't know. It was just all in, and they didn't want it. If you popped it out of the grass, dude, you wouldn't get a bite. I mean,
That's crazy.
they'd either hit it on the fall or a real slow wind.
Yeah.
Um, it was a perfect storm, is all I can say.
That's pretty freaking awesome. Now, I
Yeah.
do want to jump back. We have someone that works here in the office that's a
Okay.
fisherman, and he watched the whole thing, and he knew you were coming on today with me, and he's like, "You got to ask him. You got to ask Cliff this." So I promised him I would ask you.
Okay.
So
All right.
uh, you mentioned, of course, presence of bait. You know, when you found
Mm-hmm.
that spot was key, and I know
Mm-hmm.
you had grass around there that was key. But his question was basically, and I'm actually curious too. His question was about the hard spots, the shell. You know,
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about that. And you know, did you actually were you able to see that on the graphs, or were you
No.
feeling it? Or talk a little bit about those hard spots.
Well, I knew there was something different about the spot, you know, especially when I seen that local was catching them every cast. I'm like, well, there's something about this area. I'm starting here in the morning. You know, hopefully he's not here. And anyway, when I started there and I caught my limit, I tied on a Carolina rig. And here on the river, back in the day before we had side imaging and all that stuff, and you could
Yeah.
actually find shell patches with your electronics. That's kind of the way we found them, with a 1 ounce sinker and dragging it, and you would feel it go from mud or sand to something hard, and that was the case there. You couldn't. There was nothing I could see on my live scope, nothing I could see on side imaging. The third day of the tournament, I kept all my electronics turned off other than the map fishing this
Wow.
tournament.
Yeah.
And the third day of the tournament, when I caught that big bag, I turned my live scope on and I had it on perspective. I put it out to 20 feet because I was in 4 foot or less. And I went around that area just trying to say, hey, am I missing something here?
Right.
Because that thing, I know, you know, those things do not lie. If there's a fish there, you're going to see it.
Right.
And what amazed me, when I went out of that area, there was nowhere near the bait. There was little less grass because of the hard spot there,
Yeah.
but it was kind of like where the grass was the least, was where that bait was funneling through. And
Right.
the hard spot wasn't letting the grass grow, obviously. And
Right.
anyway, that was that was the only thing that really the electronics kind of showed me was there was more bait and more fish there. I mean, for a football field right there, for whatever reason, but the only place you could get bit was basically 2 places the size of my boat.
Wow. Very,
I mean,
very
yes, very, very
distinct,
specific spots.
specific spots.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
That's
And you could fish. I fished around it for 4 days. I mean 3 days. The fourth day, I pretty much stayed on them 2 places, and I don't know if you watched the show the last day, but I caught one. I caught one the last day, and it was late in the day, and I knew around 1 o'clock was a key time, and I went out and I made a loop, and I would give them exactly 1 hour to have a break. And my family was on a pontoon boat anchored a couple of 100 yards away. And my son said, as soon as you left, he said like one or two had come up in school. And
wow.
and he pretty much called the shot when he say seen me make that cast. He goes, there it is. And I catch that 3 pounder. It was pretty good.
Dude, that's incredible. That's incredible. I don't think there's a better feeling than having your family,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people don't understand how tough this sport can be.
Ooh,
And
it can
and if
be.
and if you don't have that support at home, that family unit,
Yeah.
that's a special thing. I mean, my
Yep.
biggest thing I can relate, I've never had my family out on a boat like that. That's
Right.
cool. But
Yeah.
when I won here in Philadelphia, to have them here at home,
I remember. I was there.
it was a very it felt
Yeah.
very similar. Very
Yeah.
it means a lot when they're there to experience that with you and to watch it. That's incredible, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I love, and I just want to say this. Listen, let me preface this. If you're watching and you love forward facing sonar and you're a new school angler, I'm not saying this to be mean, but I love that you won old school style here.
Hey man, I was triangulating and all that good stuff.
I love it.
I was back, using David Fritz stuff,
Oh,
triangulating. I
yeah.
was lining up power poles with stacks on the chemical plants and all that. So
I
yeah,
love it. I love that
yeah,
you felt the shell with the Carolina rig.
yeah.
I used to do that same thing too with a crankbait or a big heavy
Oh yeah,
jig.
yep,
You're feeling around for the
yep.
juice.
Oh yeah,
You're looking for the juice, but you're not looking for
right.
the juice with your electronics. You're feeling for the juice.
That's right.
I love
Yep.
that you did that. I love that you turned your stuff off
Yeah.
and just fished. Oh, it's so good, man.
Well,
Feels-
it wasn't like I'm gonna win this without forward facing. It was, or my electronics. I knew the fish were, everywhere we go anymore has got a lot of pressure on it. And the least amount of pressure I could put on those fish, the better off I felt I would be. And I mean, I don't know that it, made me catch any more weight or not, but that was my idea, to make as long a cast as I could, especially after I seen what was there. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, and after 2 days and nobody come in there, I said, this is my tournament to lose,
Right.
and anything I can do to better my chances of catching a big one, and that's turning everything off,
Yeah.
that's just the way I am. And I mean, uh, you got to do that stuff to, if you're going to fish one spot for 4 days,
Yeah.
any
Maximize.
precaution you can take.
Yeah, maximize the spot, right? You
That's
did
right.
all great things. You played defense. You sat it out. You caught what you wanted to catch, and
Yeah.
and then you left it all on the field the last day. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
blueprint on how to win a tournament on a spot. That is
Right.
the blueprint. You did it
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Now, here's what I got a good question. I wonder, and maybe we'll have some fans write in or comment after this podcast airs, but a lot of times when someone wins the tournament off of one spot, they name it after the winner. Do you think you have a Prince Point out there now on Lake Wheeler, or a Cliff Gully, or a Cliff Prince ditch that has your name on it now? What do you think?
There's two big old signs out there in front. I wish somebody's paint my name on it, Yeah, with an arrow pointing down.
Why not? Get a
Yeah.
we should hire a graffiti artist to come in. We'll pay him whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's
We'll
right.
put a big
I
mural,
like it.
a big graffiti mural with an arrow pointing exactly where your place is. Why
Yeah.
not? You know?
Yeah, I like it.
We might as well do it.
I had several guys, some of the, local fishermen, I made it a point fishing that tournament when I seen locals come up and they wouldn't fish. That doesn't happen a lot. I made a point to troll over there and thank them for not fishing,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, just to keep peace, you just don't ever
Yeah.
know how
Right.
somebody's going to, relate. And,
Right.
nobody ever offered to come over there and fish. But like the last day, I had a couple of older guys, they were probably tournament buddies, and hey man, don't beat on my spot too hard, So that was probably their local hole where they'd been winning derbies for years or something.
Yeah. They found it 50 years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
like old
Yeah.
grumpy men, that was
Yeah, and
their
I've got it
spot.
on live TV,
Oh
But
man. That's funny. Well, it's awesome. It was awesome to see the way it unfolded, because it doesn't always happen like that, like
no.
with no locals trying to muscle in. And
Oh
it
yeah.
does,
Yeah.
it does prove that, the sport is still good and wholesome. Like, bad shit happens every once in a while, like
Oh
every
yeah.
other sport. It was nice to see this one unfold the other way, where nobody encroached and the locals were respectful. And
Yeah, I've had that. I've had it, and and it's fishing. That I've always said it's just fishing. But if somebody does that, all you can do is just put a mark in your book, and
little
hopefully the tables turn one day.
write a little note down, and
Yeah,
I'll
just a
remember
middle
that.
note. Just a
Yeah.
middle note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Cliff, dude, I honestly, like, I got to tell you, it's the happiest I've been not winning myself in a long time. Like, watching someone
Yeah.
else win, like, I feel really happy and
Thank you.
proud for you, and
Thank you.
and to have your family there
Yep.
to watch it go down. It's
Yep.
got to be special. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and just telling some of these stories to us, because it's awesome. And you really are inspiration for the good guys, the regular guys, the grinders, the guys that are having some bad seasons like me. It's a good inspiration to just keep going and keep fishing and work hard, and good things will happen.
Hey man, I appreciate all the good words, and I appreciate you having me on your show, and taking the time to ask how it all went down, and hopefully I answered everybody's questions, and I just appreciate you taking the time out to have me on the show.
You got it, Cliff. Thank you very much. And we'll see you literally in like a couple days. I'll see you back down in Alabama for another tournament. So
like 45 minutes from where we were.
I know, it's crazy. Like, people watching this podcast, they watch on their own time. So they might watch us a month from now and they'll be like, oh, those guys are they're chilling out. They got a 3-week vacation. Nope. We're back to work in a couple days. So I appreciate you carving some time out between these two tournaments. So thank you, Cliff. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you.
There you have it, guys. Wow. What a great interview. And I say that with all sincerity. I feel really happy and proud for him winning that. And it just makes me feel good that the good guys can win. The hard workers can win. Regular dudes can win. And it's just a great story. And he deserved it. So shout out to Cliff on that great win. If you don't follow him over there on social media. Follow him in his career as he competes in these next couple events we've got. We're winding down. I think we got 3 events left. So keep an eye on Cliff in the last 3 events. Also, a shout out to Abu Garcia once again for supporting this podcast. Shout out to Ike Foundation for supporting the podcast. Go check them out, abugarcia.com and ikefoundation.org. Last but not least, keep the comments and questions coming. So many good comments coming about topics and guests you want to hear about. Keep them coming. I love it. I love reading through them. Also, thank you to all the positive comments about this new format, which is Ike Live 2.0. A little more up close and personal, one-on-one style podcast. I'm glad you like it. having a lot of fun doing them, having a lot of fun getting to know these guys on a different level. And I appreciate positive comments, so keep them coming. Let me also remind you that about a week away from our next Ike Live at the Bar. If you live in Boston, it's Ike Live at the Bar. If it's anywhere else, it's Ike Live at the Bar. But little over a week away, July 3rd, Becky and I will be doing a live podcast from the bar. So tune into that. We got some special 4th of July cocktails crafted. And, of course, great conversation about what's going on in the world and in the sport of fishing. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will see you at the next one. Bye, guys. Thanks, Cliff. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by